Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Holy Rustic, and I'm here in our studio, which has been very quiet lately because we've had to close. As you know, we started offering craft kits so we can continue to DIY together and at home, and it's been quite the week trying to get all the video equipment set up because we were very unprepared for that. So today is video day. Hopefully these tutorials are helpful and you have lots of fun with your crafts. We're gonna go ahead and get started on the carrot door hanger. So if you have your craft kit, you should have several colors of paint, all your ribbon pieces, your wood, carrot, and I did include a paintbrush because I wanted you to have a flat one, but hopefully you have some more around the house that you can use because I always keep a bunch on my table. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna point this down so that you can see what we got going on here. Here's my carrot door hanger. They're etched with lines to make it a little bit easier for you to do the stripes. What we're gonna do is start with our paint. So I want you to go ahead and take your green. I use an egg carton for mine. You can use a paper plate. You can use whatever you want. So I'm gonna put a little bit of green in one. And then I'm gonna put orange, white, and I'm gonna put just a little bit of black, just like a little drop of black to start with. We can go back and get some more later. And that's all we need for now. So we're gonna start with our stripes first. Put this over here so you can see. Now I'm gonna use a flat brush, and you can use a wide one if you want to. And we're gonna start with the white stripes. So our very bottom is gonna be orange, although it doesn't really matter, you can do it however you want, but I'm gonna start orange at the bottom and then skip every other one and do white. So I'm going to go ahead and dip in my white paint here. Now we're doing white first because it doesn't really matter if you go over the lines because you're gonna be covering it up anyways with your orange. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paint the whole thing. I'm just gonna paint the whole thing white. That'll make it easier. Our orange will be able to pop a little bit better if we just go ahead and paint the whole door hanger white. So let's just do that. Hopefully y'all are staying safe, finding all the supplies that you need out there. Things have gotten pretty crazy over the last week. But I do love kind of how everybody's come together and supporting each other. And I've also noticed in my personal Facebook feed that there's a lot of family time going on, and I think that that is wonderful. Kind of nice to have to slow down a little bit. And painting is definitely a good outlet for stressful times. I don't think I mentioned yet, but make sure you go to our Facebook page and find the craft crew group that we set up just for these craft kits and click on join, because that's a good place to ask questions and you'll learn some other things, other crafts. We'll be pretty interactive and active in that group. Plus, I'd really like to see finished kits, so. Pictures of finished kits. Again, I'm not getting real particular about the lines right now because we're gonna cover up with the darker colors. All right, so we'll let that dry for a minute. These are laser cut pieces of wood, so they have that burned black edge. You don't have to paint the edges if you don't want to. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And the black and the white are kind of hard to, the black's kind of hard to cover with the white, but I mean, you can do that while you're waiting on it to dry if you want. Another thing you can do while you're waiting in between dry time is start painting your letter. Make sure you unpack those carefully because some of the edges of those monograms are really fragile and will break pretty easily. So we tried to wrap them really good in bubble wrap and cardboard. Hopefully they came in one piece. In addition to our craft kits, in which some will have these pre-recorded video tutorials, we've also got a couple interactive virtual classes posted, and those will be live and be kind of like a video conference, so you can join, you know, your friends or family and, you know, some other people and us, and we'll all be just crafting together. We'll be able to talk back and forth. And I think it's going to be a good time. So if that's something that interests you, I mean, if you like our classes in the studio, I think that the virtual classes would be a good alternative since we can't get together in person right now. And they still come with all the supplies, so you can check that out on our website. Okay, so now that that is semi-dry, I'm gonna go ahead and do another coat because it's pretty transparent. So I'm just gonna go back over the whole carrot again. Been working on some new crafts and new kits to put up this week. It has definitely been a challenge working from home. I don't know if any of you have kids, but if they're like mine, the busier I am, the more they seem to need me. I've got a few needy animals too that don't want to let me paint. I think the whole world's pretty much basically been thrown for a loop these last couple weeks, and just kind of have to adjust and use it as an opportunity to come together and work together, get through it together. So all right, got a little bit of gloopiness in my paint here. Oh, I'm so bad about touching my wood while I'm trying to paint. I'm a really messy painter. In fact, I should probably have an apron on because I'm gonna be wearing more paint than is on my board, I guarantee it. All right, so I have that all covered in white and it's covered pretty well, so I'm just gonna let that dry. Make sure you have a water cup handy for your paintbrushes. I'll just throw those in. I'm gonna be done with the white paintbrush for now, so go ahead and put that in the water. As soon as that dries, we're gonna go ahead and work on the orange part of the stripes. Now the orange is gonna be a little more tedious than the white because we are gonna have to be cautious of the lines and try to stay in them. This is where I like to use a flat brush so I can go up against the edges. I'm trying to decide which one I want to use. You could also use an angled brush. So one that has a bit of an angle, and then you can go along the lines with that pointed edge. While you're waiting on this to dry, you can go ahead and work on your letter a little bit. I didn't cut myself a letter for this tutorial, but that's a great time to get some coverage on those letters while you're waiting on this to dry. In your craft kit, you should have 2 of the orange and white checkered ribbons, and then you should have 2 of the green glitter. You should have 2 pieces of twine and then 1 big piece of burlap, if you want to do inventory on that. One of your small pieces, the smaller piece of twine is going to be the one that holds your ribbon together, your bow together. And then the longer piece I cut so you could glue to the back as a hanger. I never know how long, you know, people want it, because some people put it high on their door and some lower. So you can cut that twine down when you're finished and attaching it to your door hanger to your preference size. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the green part while we're waiting on the white to dry. So I'm gonna take a big brush for that, just a big flat brush, and I'm just gonna dip in and go ahead and paint that. You know, the laser machine, mine's worse than your all's, that's why I'm using it as an example, but sometimes it leaves these dark spots. Paint usually covers it, but if it bothers you, you can always take a baby wipe or something and go over it. I know those are kind of hard to come by right now, so as you can see, the green paint covers the edges pretty well. So I'm gonna do 1 coat on it and let it dry. And then I'm gonna go back and do another coat, and then while it's wet, I'm gonna add a second color to give it a little more detail. Might get a smaller brush for that edge there. Your bow is gonna be covering that anyway, so if you go over the edge, it's no big deal. All right. So while that's drying, I do want to show you what I'm gonna do here. So for our second color, I'm going to take, I'll get a little more green. I'm gonna take some of this green and mix it with my black. So I'm just gonna scoop some over and I'm gonna mix it so that I get a little bit of a darker color green. I don't want it to look black, so if it does, you add a little more green in there. You just want it to be a little darker than the green that we're using for the carrot top, so that there's a little bit of a contrast between the colors. And you don't need a lot of it. So you can see the difference there. I just made a little bit of a darker color green. All right, so now that it's dry it a little bit. I'm gonna do a second coat, and then while it's wet, I'm gonna use that darker color to go over and blend into this. Okay, so I'm gonna do a coat of the original green, just to give it some more coverage. And now I'm gonna dip into this darker green. And while this is wet, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna turn it sideways, and I'm gonna spread that like this. So I'll dip in and then spread it out. Okay, so once I get them stripes on there, I wanna go through and blend that in. So I'm gonna take just the tip of my brush, just the corner, and I'm gonna go through and lightly brush those edges out so that they don't look so much like stripes. So I'm just lightly, while it's wet, I'm just blending the edges of that darker color in. That just adds a little more detail, so it's not just a plain green. Just start from the end here and just brush out a little bit. So there's a little bit of contrast now in that carrot top. Now, if you get it too dark, you can always go back to the original color and brush some of that original color back in. It's just a matter of preference, how you want it to look. You can play around with it a little bit, add some dark, add some light. It's just once it starts to dry, it's not gonna blend as well. So you wanna kind of play around with it while it's still wet. I think I am happy with that. So I'm gonna keep it there. And I'm basically done with the green. So I'm gonna throw that in my jar of water. Flip this back around. And so the orange stripes, like I said, are gonna be the hardest because we really have to pay attention to that edge. I think I'm gonna start with the angled brush, and I'm gonna turn this sideways. All right, so my very top stripe is orange, so that's what I'm gonna work on first. I'm just gonna dip in the orange, and I'm gonna start going over it, over that white. Again, this is where the bow goes, so that's not gonna be that big of a deal if you go over the edge there. And you can use, you know, different brushes. So I use one brush for my edges and then usually go back and fill in the middle. And since I am left-handed, I probably need to turn the carrot this way. Okay, so I'm gonna use my angle brush and just draw or paint straight down that edge there. If you're having a hard time getting crisp edges, you can always go back later and touch up the white or use a paint pen to go down each edge. All right, I'll probably go ahead and do one coat on all my orange stripes and then go back over it again. So I'm gonna skip a stripe and come down to this one and do orange on that one. So I'll just start on the lines. Y'all can always use a hairdryer or something at home too to dry in between coats if you want to. I hold my brushes pretty close to the tip. I'll flip this back around. Stripe 2. I'm going to start on the next one. I have a train right behind the studio and it is really loud. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. All right, 2 more, well, kind of like 1.5 more white stripes. Orange stripes, sorry. careful not to lay your hand in the wet paint and spread it all over your door hangers. Done that more than once. We're gonna be doing a lemon next. So the next craft kit is a lemon door hanger. Those seem to be popular this season. All things lemon. All right, now that I got coverage on all of that, I'll go back up to the top and probably, oops, got a little orange there. Do another coat just to make it a little bit darker. So I'm just gonna use a bigger brush and go over the centers. Way out of the line there. Sometimes I get in a big hurry. I'm not the most patient person. I'll just go back and touch that up in a little while. Slow down. All right. So I got my second coat on. I'm going to do a little bit of touch up with my white. And you can always use a paint pen for this too. Sometimes the lines are a lot easier to deal with. So stripes are done, carrot top's done. Now basically all we have to do is finish painting our letter if you haven't done that yet, and then we're going to do some highlights around the edges and make our bow. So for the highlights around the edges, once this dries, I always keep some Sharpie paint pens in reach because I just really like to do my highlights and stuff with those. But you can use a paintbrush. Just make sure it's kind of pointy, rounded at the ends. And you can always kind of test it. I'm going to dip in this dark here and then just do like a quick test. If I had a paper plate, that would be better, but you know, you just kind of zigzag it like I did right there. So this is the perfect brush for that because that's what we're doing, is zigzag all the way around. And then for the little spots on the carrot top, you just dip that, and this is I got a small pointed brush, so I'm just dip lightly in the white and then drop that down on that carrot top, just like that. Just do that all over. You can do whatever size dots you want. Just don't push down real hard. Now would be a good time to plug in your glue gun if you're going to attach your bow with a hot glue gun. You can tie it on too. I like to do both. All right. Just touch up some little ones. Okay, so that's the dots on the carrot. I'm gonna rinse this out and get ready to do the black squiggly lines. Actually, let's just put that to the side and let that dry for a little while. We'll work on our bow while that's drying. So I'm gonna move the door hanger and let's get to the bow. So you have all these pieces. You need your small piece of twine. I don't have any twine here, so I'm gonna just use this. All right, so you're gonna take your burlap first and you're going to make it into a circle like this. Now I like to staple mine together. You don't necessarily have to, but that will ensure it'll stay together. So right there where it connects, I just put a staple on each side. Whoops. All right. And then you're just gonna press that down in the center and then basically fold it up in the middle. So just make sure you're right in the center so it's folded. All right, and then I'm going to lay that face down inside. Well, no, I'm not. I lied. Okay, so I'm gonna lay your twine out on the table. And then we're going to do a little something extra here to the ribbon. So fold the ribbon facing you. So fold it in half with the opening towards you. And then take your scissors on the end and you're going to cut at an angle towards the end. And that's gonna give it that little cute little edge there. And you're gonna do that to both sides of each ribbon so that it's not just plain on the end and unraveled. Okay, so there's one. You do that to all of your pieces. So fold it in towards you. And I have fabric scissors. You can use whatever you want. I just think these cut better on the ribbon. Just do each edge like that. And I already have one side done on the green, so I'm just gonna do the other side here. Just like that. All right, so now on my twine right in the center, I'm going to basically crisscross these ribbons right over the twine like this. Face down, because you're gonna see what's on the bottom of the table. So just like that. Then I'm gonna take my pinched burlap and I'm going to put it right in the center. And then I'm going to take my twine and tie it in a knot around all the pieces. So before I double knot it, I'm gonna flip it over and make sure that all the pieces are where I want them to be and where I can see them. So it's just a cute little quick bow to add to your door hanger. So pull it tight. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do a double knot in the back. All right, so we have our little bow ready to attach. You can fluff up the ends of the burlap here. There you go. So it looks like that. All right, now would be a good time to get a hairdryer. I'm wrapped up in my tablecloth here to finish drying on the carrot or work on your letter. So when we do our squigglies, I am going to, again, you would either use a black Sharpie paint pen or any kind of paint pen would work, any brand, or you could use this again. So basically I'm gonna do a squiggly and then dot dot and squiggly and dot dot all the way around. And I need to get some more black. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. It's dry. And I just dip it in there and I'm just gonna lightly touch it to the board and squiggle. I'm gonna do, so you just squiggle it. And I'm starting at the bottom just to kind of make it more even. And then dot, 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 dot. So I'm gonna try to keep the sides about the same. So I'll just do another squiggle on each side. And I just touched my orange. And then dot, dot. And you're just gonna do that all the way around. Just make sure it's dry, because you'll do what I just did and touch it. Pull a chunk out. You don't want it to be too thick. You don't have to think too much about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I found the more I think about it, the less I like it. So just kind of squiggle it on there. All right, and then once you get up here to the top, it's not gonna matter too much, again, because your bow is gonna be covering that, but I'll go ahead and finish it out. Okay, there we go. We're done with the paint. So we have our carrot door hanger all done. Now once that dries, you'll take your bow. This is where you'll use the hot glue. You lay it across here and you can flip it over and tie it on the back, or you can just glue that center straight down to your door hanger. So I thought I had a glue gun plugged in, but apparently I don't. All right. Anyways, you'll just glue straight onto the back of that and then push it down and let it dry. And then you can take the strings and just flip it over and tie it here on the back. This is also where you would glue your twine to the back, and just make sure before you glue it that it's where you want it to be so that it hangs straight. So you don't want it to hang crooked on your door. All right, and then the last step is to put your letter right in the center. So you wanna be careful. I did send you a little tube of E6000. That is craft glue that holds really well. Even if it's outside, it's gonna hold up a lot better than hot glue. The only problem with it is that it takes a little while to set. So it's not gonna hold immediately like hot glue does. It also oozes out the sides. So what you wanna do is use the bare minimum amount on the very back of your letter, and you're going to keep the glue on the thick parts of the wood, right in the center. So just try to keep the glue away from the sides, because if it's close to the sides, when you go to push it down on your carrot, it's gonna ooze out around the outside of the letter and you're gonna be able to see it. So just use a little bit of glue, little goes a long way. Keep it on the center of your letter, and then make sure when you lay it down that it's pretty much where you want it to be, because once you start sliding it around, you're gonna be able to see that glue. So you want it to be, when you drop it down, it should be pretty close to where you're gonna have it. And then push it down once you get it where you want it. And then do not hold the door carrot up until tomorrow. So I would just keep it laying flat for several hours at least, because if you lay that letter down in the center and then you hold this up, that letter is gonna slide down and you're gonna have glue marks. So you need to just make sure that you leave that laying flat until that glue starts to set. Okay. So hopefully, I think we're done. Hopefully you like your finished product. And I would love to see pictures on our Facebook group, The Craft Crew, so make sure to head over there and join it. And I hope y'all are staying safe out there. I had fun painting with you today, and talk to you next time. Bye.